Welcome to Buckets, your daily NBA betting podcast presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Brandon Kravitz, joined by our resident lawyer and props king, Joe Dellera. A reminder that every pick that we give out tonight can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. We'll go through what we learned tonight. Sometimes lessons are learned with a little extra money in your pocket. Sometimes you have to have money stolen from your pocket in order to learn the lesson properly. Tonight would be one of those nights for me. I was on the Milwaukee Bucks -2.5 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The T-Wolves are without Anthony Edwards, their dominant scorer. They're without Rudy Gobert, their dominant rim protector. And obviously that stuff is priced in. It's not like I got ahead of the market. I bet into that. But it didn't matter. It's not like, it's not like CLV was it wouldn't have mattered. Would have had to close at Bucks +30 for me to cover the spread in this game. Absolute joke. I don't like to just throw teams in bet prison, Joe, because that's just not a way to approach this endeavor that we have put ourselves through. But the Milwaukee defense is a fucking laughing stock, and I don't know if I can stomach them again. They're at least I'm gonna have to hit pause on them for about a week. That's my lesson learned. The Bucks can't defend anybody. 76 points in the first half. At least I didn't have to sweat it tonight.
That team is brutal, honestly. Like, that's a game they should have won. Giannis was on like a little bit of a minutes restriction, but not really. Like, they said he was going to play 30 to 30, like 32 minutes. Like, that's more than enough time to be able to take care of that Minnesota Timberwolves team, who just like really, I wasn't expecting to have any rim protection. And Julius Randle just had his way with this Bucks team nonstop throughout the entire game. Like, just really tough spot for Milwaukee. You wonder what they're going to do. It seems like Giannis has kind of come off of the trade pressure a little bit, but what are they going to do? Bring in Zach LaVine? Like, that'll fix it.
Yeah, that's not exactly going to help their defensive woes at this point.
No.
I don't know. I don't know what the fix is. I think I heard in one of the prior episodes, the guys talking about, maybe you were part of that too, about how Giannis just needs to get selfish. He needs to become that ego-filled superstar in order to find his way to greener pastures, because Milwaukee's not going to just trade him. No. They don't want to see every butt leave their seats. They're gonna keep him there as long as he allows it to happen. And their roster is broken. They don't have anybody else. If you took Giannis away, would this be the worst team in the NBA? We're not replacing it with anyone. We just take Giannis out of the equation.
They'd be really bad. They would be really, really bad. I'm trying to think if there would be anybody worse.
Like the Pelicans, honestly, the Pacers, those are two of the worst teams record-wise in the NBA. I like both of their rosters better than a Giannis-less. I think I like the Kings better than a Giannis-less Bucks team at this point. Washington has some level of excitement, especially with Trae Young now.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Like, if you took Giannis off the Bucks, you look at the team and you go, man, like, they're ass and they have no future out of the ass. Like, they're just going to be bad. I think I saw that they were like, in the market for Miles Bridges, and it's like, you guys just don't care at all about the morality of the guys you're bringing in. So really rough spot for Milwaukee right now.
Anything that you picked up from the Tuesday slate?
Yeah, I gotta say that looking at the Denver Nuggets, Peyton Watson is a fucking dog. Like, this dude is awesome. 31 points, 7 rebounds again today. He is absolutely on fire. And I think the thing that's great about this, we talk about this a lot of times when players miss time, and you hope that it gives the opportunity for some of the younger guys. Like for New York, without Miles McBride was hurt. Josh Hart was hurt for a bit. You saw Tyler Kolek start to get some minutes. You saw like Huck Porty get some minutes, like those types of guys further down the roster. Now you see it for Denver, where Denver is without obviously Jokic. They were without Christian Brown still. He's been mostly out of the lineup. Aaron Gordon's back, but you've seen Peyton Watson just really step up into that role, because a lot of these teams that are capped by like the literal cap, they just don't have money to spend. It becomes very difficult to trade and make transactions. You need that type of internal development, that like next step up. And to get that from Peyton Watson, a guy who was basically buried on the bench by Malone, it's incredible. It's such a big deal for this Denver team. I think, hopefully it's legit. Hopefully it still lasts. But I mean, just an incredible run for Peyton Watson, and, really happy for the guy. He's been in the league for a couple of years too. It's not like that he hasn't earned this. And he's really kind of taken the most of this opportunity and run with it. So really awesome run for Peyton Watson. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he slots into the rotation when everybody is healthy in Denver.
I'm just shocked that they're hanging on as much as they are without Nikola Jokic. Jokic has been out since right after Christmas. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games, and they have wins over Philadelphia, who's turned it on, Boston, who's looked like one of the best teams in the league. Milwaukee's trash, so I'm not going to give them credit for that. And New Orleans is kind of trash too, but still, I mean, 4-1 in their last 5, and 2 of those are very impressive victories. And the Nuggets, the internal development is obviously off the charts, and I'll let Matt Moore wax poetic on that because he certainly knows this team better than I do. But they are so Jokic-centric with the way that they play. I have a 6-point adjustment on Jokic not being in the lineup, and I look at that, and I'm like, that math doesn't even make sense to me, because it feels like it should be 12 because of the way that everything runs through him and how unique a player he is. But this is a good example of, if you are in the create a number world, you've got to stick with it, even if it doesn't make any common sense in your brain, because they have been getting by. The adjustments, numbers-wise, have been proper. And if you've been betting Denver without Nikola Jokic, you've been profiting off of that. I'm just shocked. I'm surprised in just watching the way that this team operates, that they're able to get by without that sort of anchor. They have to change the way they play. I have not watched enough Denver Nuggets basketball since he's been out. I think part of it is because I'm less interested in it. But
it's not as beautiful.
Not nearly, but they are getting the job done. So credit to them for that. We're going to hop to our best bets in a moment, but first, an important message from Matt Moore.
The Buckets Podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. And in partnership with DraftKings, our listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has got you covered. Bet live on star player props and in-progress games right as they happen. To get started, use promo code BUCKETSNBA when signing up with DraftKings. That's code BUCKETSNBA when signing up with DraftKings for $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
Could not have said it better myself, Matt. Let's get to it. Time for some plays. 3-star, 2-star, 1-star. What are we looking at on the Wednesday slate, Joe?
So my 3-star play is going to be Tyrese Maxey over 26.5 points. He's hit this in 12 of his last 15 games. He's averaging 28.7 points per game over this stretch. Dude has been absolutely on fire. And honestly, some of the concerns where it's like, oh, well, like maybe he won't be as good with Joel Embiid. He's absolutely incredible with Joel Embiid. It does not matter. This is basically his offense to run. He's getting as much usage as he wants. And here he gets to play this Cleveland Cavaliers defense, who is actually like kind of slipped of late, and they just haven't been really like as good at all this season. If we look at the Cavs, they're 15th in defense. So a far cry from that top ranked defense that they've had over the past couple of seasons. Additionally, that backcourt that they've got with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland has just been absolute barbecue chicken for a lot of these opposing guards. And, we're seeing a lot of similar players crush this line. Keontae George just did it. We were on him last game. He has 23.5 points prop, finished with 32. We've seen Jamal Murray go crazy over it. We've seen Devin Booker go over it. We've seen Jalen Brunson crush this line. And Tyrese Maxey is a super heavy usage ball dominant guard who is able to kind of get whatever he wants in these spots. So I think this is a great matchup for Tyrese Maxey. He takes a ton of shots from beyond the arc, and that's a shot that the Cavs have really kind of been allowing as well. And even like I said, with or without Joel Embiid, he's had a lot of success here. So I like over 26.5 points for Maxey. I think this is a really good matchup for him, and I really don't see how Cleveland's going to slow him down.
If we're looking at the shooting guard position, which I know in today's NBA, all of this is sort of like meshed together. But
yeah.
Still, Tyrese Maxey is as traditional a shooting guard as we have in the league. The Cleveland Cavaliers allow the only teams in the league that allow more points to the shooting guard position: Pelicans, Wizards, Jazz, and then it's the Cavs.
That's it. Yeah,
they have been
Toast.
absolutely awful. Is that something that you do? Do you find that you have the most success when you're betting props in attacking a specific team, that, like, especially if you're betting overs, attacking a team like Cleveland just night after night, just constantly going back to the well, or does the well dry up? How do you approach that?
I think the well dries up. I do think that there's like a little bit of like give and take with it, right? So I think the well does dry up, but I also think that like certain players you get a better opportunity to bet because maybe like there's something kind of like in the water, or so to speak, in terms of like why the prop line is set the way that it is. Maybe they had a bad game the day before. And then this is like doubled as a good matchup and a bounce back opportunity. So I think you get a little bit of that too. So I try to do that. And I also think that it's a way where teams I feel like when you look at lines, a lot of people are looking at players to bet on, like they want to bet the same player over and over and over again because that player is going over their line at like X amount of games or whatever it is, right? Or they've hit this in like 5 straight games or something like that. Whereas I think the way that I'm kind of looking at it at times anyway, and like kind of in this Cleveland matchup, is it's not so much that I want to go back to Cleveland every time, but if there's a player that I think is similar to like an archetype of player that I think it has a lot of success, then I'm remembering to go back to it. So for me here, like there hadn't been a guard that had really gone off against Cleveland for like a couple of games until I was like, Keontae George is going to do it. I think it's a great matchup for him. And then he crushes the line. And then now I'm looking at Maxey, and Maxey is like similar type of player. Like, and then when you look back at it and you go, yeah, like these are all kind of similar styles of play. And they all have success against Cleveland. So that's kind of what I'm looking for a lot of the times, but it's hard to even describe that because if you looked at what Cleveland is good at, like they're actually pretty good at defending pick and roll ball handlers, but it's like everything else that Maxey does that makes it a tough matchup for them. So there's a little bit of nuance to it, but at the same time, it's like you can get certain trends from watching the game, and then it's coupling it obviously with what the line is. Like you're just not going to bet it blindly, but if the line is showing value based on, the way that you project the game to go and maybe some of the usage, then that's a way that you can kind of dig into the line.
Especially when you're looking at a guy, and that's such an important detail. It was a phenomenal answer, by the way. The typical line for Maxey is 27.5. So for whatever reason, you're getting a discount by a point, and that's an important factor in all of this. You like the discount, love the matchup. Boom, we got it. 3-star play for me, Pacers plus 2.5 against the Toronto Raptors. We have two teams that are headed in opposite directions right now, at least for the time being. The Pacers, of all teams, have won 3 straight. The Raptors should be 0-3 in their last 3. They eked out a win against the Philadelphia 76ers in overtime. Then they got blasted by them in the next game. Philadelphia had 80 first-half points. That was the most by any Raptors opponent this season. Pirtle's still out. RJ Barrett's still out. Jacoby Walter's still out. double revenge spot here. This is the third meeting between these two teams. The Raptors took the first two, but this Pacers team is playing really well right now. Impressive wins against Boston and Miami over this 3-game stretch. So this is not a hollow streak that they're on, a little bit like Denver that we talked about, where they've played well, and it's not all empty against the Pelicans of the world. I've thought all season that they're better than their record showed. I mean, they did make it to the finals last year with a lot of the same guys. I know Halliburton's out, Turner's moved on, and they've dealt with some injuries, but still, it's just shocking to me what they have shown record-wise. I'm glad they got Carlisle that 1,000th win, and it seems like something sparked them after that. They just haven't been able to close out games this year. Now they're starting to figure that out. I like them to cover here at home against the Toronto Raptors.
I love that you're on this play because it's going to tie kind of well, I think, into my next play, because the Pacers have been kind of like, they've just been bad. But at the same time, they do seem like a team that can kind of hang. What are your thoughts on Indiana as a team that, like, obviously, like, they're not going anywhere this year, right? But at the same time, do you feel like they're just going to try to bottom out? Because I feel like this is about as good of an opportunity as you can get if you're this like crappy Indiana team, but like you were in the finals last year, your best player is hurt, he's out for the whole year, and you're going to potentially get like you might get the number 1 pick in the draft that you get to just pair him up with for a city that realistically doesn't get free agents. Like, it's hard to envision a situation where they try to do anything the rest of the season, but I do think maybe they can stay competitive in some of these games as guys are like fighting for roster spots and stuff like that.
I think Carlisle is going to push back so hard on that up until the end of the season. I think when we're talking about the last couple of weeks, that's going to be a really good angle for a Pacers team that at some point, and maybe it's right now, is going to catch fire, and they're going to win some games that they're not supposed to, or they're going to go on a little bit of a streak. They've put themselves so far behind the 8 ball that even if they won 5 games in a row, they're still one of the worst teams in the NBA record-wise. They would have to get on an unreal heater in order to overcome what they've done so far. If they had like Charles Lee as their head coach, or anybody but Carlisle is like, he's from the old school. And I just don't think he's going to roll over. Management's going to tell him like, hey, we're trying to lose. He's going to be like, fuck that. No, we're not.
Yeah. And honestly, too, this draft is so deep. Like, as long as you're kind of in the bottom of it, where you're maybe locked into like a top 5 or 6 pick, you're going to be in pretty good shape.
I like what Gooner7 said. Johnny Furphy does not endorse tanking. Well said by you.
Sure doesn't.
Also, one other note: home dogs this season, 57% against the spread. That's 4 percentage points higher than the NBA average over the last 20 years. So something's cooking for these home dogs. Who do you like as your 2-star play?
So I'm actually going to be in the same game. I'm looking at Brandon Ingram over 23.5 points. Ingram. So the Raptors are going to be without Jakob Poeltl and RJ Barrett. Sandro Mamasculas Bailey is that's a mouthful.
Yes.
Mamu.
It's fine.
Mamu's questionable, and I think that could open up a little bit of the spacing. It can open up the floor a little bit. Potentially, maybe we see some smaller lineups from both of these teams. And Brandon Ingram, he's got a couple down games in a row, like 17 points, 6 points, obviously in only 11 minutes against the Hornets, and then 35 minutes, but only 19 points against the Hawks back on the 5th. So he'd missed like a little bit of time in there. But I think this is a pretty good bounce back spot. The big thing for me here is that even looking back at what he's done against Indiana, he just kind of like smokes them over the past couple of seasons. Over the last couple of years, he's played them 5 times, averaging 27 points a game. He had 26 earlier this season against them, and he had 19 in another game against them earlier this season. But the big thing here for me is just the shot profile that Indiana kind of allows. They're generally playing everybody pretty straight up. They want to keep you off the 3-point line as best as possible. And they basically just said, like, shoot a lot of mid-range, get to the rim. Like, that's what we're looking for. And Brandon Ingram goes, that's great. That's exactly what I want to do. So I think it's a really good opportunity for Ingram. this over 23.5 points line, I think is just a touch low, especially given what the potential usage is and what the spacing can be without Barrett, Pirtle, and Mamu. So I like the spot for Brandon Ingram at over 23.5. And I like that you think the Pacers are going to hang, because that means that we're probably going to actually get some minutes here, and it's not going to necessarily be a blowout.
Which is exactly what we saw the first time these two teams played. So if you're looking back at the Brandon Ingram game log and you go, wow, well, he only scored 19 the first time that these two teams met. We only have a 2-game sample as far as this season goes. That game went sideways pretty fast for Indiana. He only played 30 minutes. They didn't even need him in the fourth quarter of that game. The Pacers were next level depleted at that stage in the season. The next time those two teams played, which was a much lower scoring game, they needed him to perform, and he did. I think this is going to be a much more competitive game, clearly, because I'm on the Pacers as a dog here. So I like that look. 2-star play for me, 76ers, excuse me, 76ers in the first half against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Never mind the fact that the Cavs just lost to the Jazz. The Cavs suck in the first half. They have been the least profitable team the first half, ATS, money line, whatever it is, the entire NBA. They are the worst first half team in the league. Philadelphia gets Embiid back. He took a day off, so he'll be nice and rested. It's a spotlight ESPN game too. Another revenge angle. Cleveland smacked them up the first time they played. No Embiid in that one. I have respect for Donovan Mitchell in a bounce-back spot after losing to a team you have no business losing to. So I'm going to avoid the second half here, but I think Cleveland will still be in a funk after what happened to them on Monday night. So I'm going to go Sixers first half money line. The Sixers, by the way, are on the opposite end of the spectrum. They are one of the most profitable teams in terms of the first half spread.
Yeah, I like this look. Again, like I'm on Maxey. I think it's a good spot. And it's funny that you brought up Donovan, because I looked at his points prop too, and I was like, I feel like this is a spot where he just bounces back, and it's going to be a pretty fast-paced game. But at the end of the day, I was like, I'm just going to go with Maxey here.
If you want to go your classic 3-leg SGP, might not be the worst idea. Get Donovan Mitchell points, Maxey points, Sixers first half. That could be a fun way to slam that together.
Yeah, it's pretty
fun. I might have to write that one down, actually, now that
that was actually not too bad.
We talk ourselves into this stuff, as we got talking about the Nuggets, and I'm looking at the slate. I'm like, why am I not on Denver? I feel like they're still undervalued. It is the second night of a back-to-back, so I'm not going to totally talk myself into that, but they're playing Dallas, and it's not like Dallas is anything to write home about. It's a tight spread, so that might be one worth looking at as well. Not an official play, but we got the gears turning here. 1-star play for me. I'm gonna go deep down the list here. You're gonna have to scroll for this one. Let's go Jay Huff, over 8.5 points scored. He has been hyper efficient as of late. 81% shooting inside the painted area over his last 3 games. He attempted 13 threes in his last 3 in total. We've seen him go over his points prop both times the Pacers have played the Raptors. By the way, what is our obsession with this basketball game? This makes no sense. He's a big that matches up well with Toronto. Toronto can be stretched out to the perimeter. They lack a true rim protector, especially with Pirtle out. They also allow the 21st most paint attempts, I should say, in the NBA. So perfect for how efficient Jay Huff has been. His over is hitting 9 of his last 15. So I like him to get double digits here. What about you? 1-star play on the slate.
I'm looking at naturally, to keep this a Knicks podcast, I'm looking at Mikal Bridges over 3.5 assists. This line is like not really out there yet, but I think it's going to be here. I think it's a pretty good spot for him against the Sacramento Kings, who allow the 5th most assists per game to their opponents. The big thing for me here, though, is that basically the Knicks are like pretty healthy right now. You've got Brunson, Hart, Towns, McBride, Anunoby. Really, the only guy they're missing is Shamet at this point. And looking at this season, when Bridges is playing with that like main group of players, he's often looked at as like kind of a wheel guy. And he's averaging 4.7 assists per game, gone over this line in 7 of 10 games this season with that whole crew. So I think it's a pretty good opportunity for him. to kind of keep going over this, especially against this Kings team, who's, again, poor defensively. Knicks are big favorites. And, Bridges isn't necessarily always looking to score when he's with this group. He's looking more to facilitate, get out in transition, pick up a couple steals, and help others finish around him. So I like this. I think the 3.5 is just a little bit light. I wouldn't mind 4.5, but I would definitely need some plus money to play that. But even that, hitting 6 of 10 with this squad.
There you go. We got him in. 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star. I am on the Pacers plus 2.5, Sixers first half money line, and Jay Huff over 8.5 points scored. Joe likes Tyrese Maxey over 26.5 points. Brandon Ingram over 23.5 points scored, and Mikal Bridges over 3.5 assists. Remember, you can go and check out the Action Network app and the description of this podcast if you want to tail any of those plays. Before we get out of here, it is time for our Shack Pack Double breakdown presented by DraftKings. Make sure to opt in to the promotion and you'll get a boost on a double parlay. Here are a few guys that we like on the Wednesday slate. I'm going Joel Embiid as my nomination. He has roasted the Cavs dating back to 2021. 32 and 36 points in his last 2 against Cleveland. A 40-point triple-double to his name in this rivalry. But throw all of that junk out, Joe. I just said that because that's what you're supposed to do. He hasn't played the Cavs since 2023. Has not played.
It's crazy.
It's unfathomable. A fellow Eastern Conference opponent. He hasn't played them in 3 seasons. So forget about the matchup. It doesn't matter. Embiid is rolling right now. I like him for a double tonight. Joe, who you got?
So we're going to get somehow spicier than that. And we're going to grab Colin Murray Boyles on the Toronto Raptors. Again, Pirtle's out. RJ Barrett's out. Mamu is questionable. Wouldn't surprise me if he sat in this spot against the Pacers. And Murray Boyles has kind of been like, he has these crazy rebounding spikes, and he's like a little bit of a variant type of outcome here. Like, he might miss some points, he might miss on rebounds, but it's also like plus 441. So we're getting a lot better number here in terms of like the juiciness of it. The Pacers are allowing the 4th most rebounds per game to their opponents. Again, they're pretty weak on the interior, which is really where Colin Murray Boyles is scoring. He's basically scoring all of his looks at the rim. So I think it's a pretty good spot for him. And again, like, this makes this pretty juicy in these 2 legs between Joel Embiid and Murray Boyles.
10-1 if you put those 2 together, but we're throwing a 3rd leg in there, and it's whatever you guys want. It's listener choice. So we're going Joel Embiid, Colin Murray Boyles, and listener choice is our Shack Pack double breakdown presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Feel free to throw a comment in there if you have a suggestion on that 3rd leg. That'll do it for tonight's episode. If you want to tail any of these bets, it's the Action Network app. Also, actionnetwork.com/bet now. Big ups to Joe Dellera and our producer, David Payne. Shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring this episode. We'll see you next time. Until then, let's get buckets.